Right, for more on the impact of the conflict in the Middle East, we're joined now by archaeologist and director of the Women's Center of A-Thuri, Abeer, Zayaad, Apartheid-Free policy coordinator at the Palestinian Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions National Committee, Saleh, Hijazi, and Dr. Ramzy Baroud, who is an author who lost 6 members in Gaza and has been reporting on Palestine at least for the last 20 years. We are also joined by 17-year-old Janna Jihad, who served as ambassador of South African Children's Rights Initiative, Shamsaan. Good evening to you, and thank you very much for coming on tonight and putting us into the picture of what's happening on the ground. Abeer, I know you, as we speak, you're saying you could possibly be under attack at this particular point. Hence, we will conceal your identity and won't show your video. But tell me what is happening there tonight as we speak.
In fact, the situation in Jerusalem is very, very difficult. And they consider any word that we are saying as, even if it was a sympathy with the people in Gaza, as an excuse to attack, to arrest, to put us as a target for being killing. So it's very sensitive now from each one of us to say anything, and even to express his feeling or to say that he's sad about what is happening in Gaza. Even to say that you are sad is enough reason to be arrested. And already the Israeli head police, he said today that anyone who's feeling sympathy with Gaza, that the buses are ready to take him there. So the situation in Jerusalem is very sensitive. So because of that, I can't say anything more about the situation. And we are in Jerusalem. We are in a very dangerous thing that even when we go out from our homes, we are attacked, we are arrested, we are beaten, and we could be killed any moment by anyone in the street. They are all the time asking for killing all of us and to demolish Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is what they put in their website. So it's very, very, very sensitive and dangerous situation on us now in Jerusalem.
Yeah. Saleh, how do you survive each day on the brink of a possible invasion? I believe there was an instruction, for example, for Palestinians to go down south, but then Israel attacked the south today.
Yes, nowhere in Gaza is safe. Let me clarify, I'm not in Gaza, I'm in Ramallah, in the occupied West Bank. Yesterday, as perhaps your report has pointed out, Israel bombed the Baptist hospital in Gaza, killing around 500 Palestinians, including patients, doctors, children, and people who were finding refuge in this hospital that was established by the Anglican Church in 1882. And I think it's very important to note to the audience that for over 11 days now, Palestinians in Gaza have been under the most intense Israeli bombardment, targeting homes, markets, schools, universities, hospitals, infrastructure, you name it. Entire families have been wiped off the face of the earth. Israel's onslaught killed over 3,300 Palestinians so far, a third of whom are children. According to the renowned human rights organization Defense for Children International, there's a child killed every 15 minutes in Gaza. Injured people have surpassed the 12,000, with the health system, according to the World Health Organization, on breaking point. Almost 500,000 people have been already lost their homes or been forcibly displaced, if not more. At the same time, Israeli forces are amassing around the Gaza Strip, following orders from the Israel War Minister, who ordered cutting food, water, electricity, and gas from the people who have been besieged there for the last 16 years. Upon making these orders, Minister Yoav Gallant said, Palestinians are human animals and should be treated accordingly. Yeah. This human animals should be treated accordingly was repeated by his army minister. So, sir, let me say, this is genocide. And this is what we're living. It's a genocide targeting the Palestinian people. It's a genocide being carried out in Gaza.
Dr. Baroud, let's come to you. There are of course, two statements that you've made, and I want you to just expand on them a little bit. But you yourself find yourself in exile. You're in Seattle at this particular point. You've been studying. In fact, your doctorate is around is around Palestine and the conflict there. You are raising an issue of the coverage now, calling this a Hamas-Israel conflict, when all along it's been called an Arab-Israel conflict. That's one. But two, you raise the question of why this is so confusing is that for so long people have been comfortable with Palestine's victimhood. Just explain those statements for us.
Right. First, thank you very much for hosting us. Just a couple of quick, one correction and one quick addition. The number of those killed in Gaza has just went up to 3,467. And the correction is that 17 members, not 6 members of my family, have been killed and many are still missing. Regarding the point of the Hamas-Israel conflict, if we look at the history of the discourse on Palestine-Israel, you will find that once upon a time there was such a thing as an Arab-Israeli conflict. Of course, we have a problem with the word conflict per se, because colonization of someone's land is not a conflict. Apartheid is not a conflict. So you don't say the white-black conflict in South Africa. You just say the racist apartheid of South Africa. So this doesn't apply to Palestinians for some reason, but this point aside, that conflict, that Arab-Israeli conflict with time became a Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and that was particularly after the signing of the Oslo Accords in 1993, where Palestinians were kind of disowned and a corrupt leadership from amongst them were kind of responsible for creating this sort of shield between the Palestinian people and the Israeli military. In other words, they found enough Palestinians who would agree to do Israel's dirty job in the West Bank. And with time, this turned into yet a new phrase, and that is the Hamas-Israeli conflict. But the conflict did not really start in the late 1980s. That's when Hamas was created. What happened between 1948 until 1989 or 1987? Between that time when Hamas did not even exist, what did we call it? Why were Palestinians angry? Why were they resisting? Why was Israel killing them and committing genocides and massacres everywhere? So obviously we are missing a huge part of the story. And the story is really not about Hamas. But that's what Israel wants. They want to keep it about Hamas and create comparisons between Hamas and ISIS. And therefore, this is part of Israel's responsibility towards the international community to fight this continued war on terror and so forth and so on. So these kind of phrases are absolutely functional to the Israeli propaganda machine. If you could remind me of the other point, sorry for that.
So the other point is in fact, before I get to the other point, I want to stay right there, because earlier on we heard the President of the United States saying that, in fact, what Hamas did makes the ISIS group look like a kindergarten, like a walk in the park. It's nearly not as bad.
It's extremely dangerous. From the very start, the Americans were part of this battle. If we remember, in October 1973, when Israel engaged in a war with several Arab countries, and the Arabs managed to actually gain the upper hand in that war, it took the U.S. about a whole week for them to start shipping weapons to Golda Meir's government and eventually reversing the gains of the Arabs. This time around, we're not talking about standing traditional army or military warfare. We are talking about a group of fighters from a besieged area. Yet somehow the U.S. understood this to be a geopolitical challenge to their power in the Middle East, and they treated Gaza as if it's a nuclear power, sending 2 major aircraft carriers to the East Mediterranean and other military ships and massive equipment and more emergency money and so forth and so on. So the Palestinians understood this correctly, that the U.S. is part and parcel of this war. For many years, we have argued that the U.S. is biased, that the U.S. is not an honest peace broker, that the U.S. is not fair in its treatment of Palestinians. But we can't make that argument anymore. The U.S. is very much engaged in this war to the extent that American newspapers, I believe it was Axios, that said that the U.S. is dedicating 2,000 Navy soldiers who could be engaged directly in the war. This is unprecedented, and this is going to basically set the entire region on fire. The Americans are walking into all of this with zero regards, of course, for Palestinian life. I mean, if you hear Biden speak, has this emotional outburst over the life of the hostages, the children hostages. We don't know anything about the children hostages so far. Maybe they have them, maybe they don't. But he is like torn emotionally by this. Yet you are talking about nearly 1,000 Palestinian child ripped apart, mutilated in the streets and parks and hospitals, for crying out loud. Not a single word about them. America not only lost its credibility completely, but it's losing its humanity as well.
Janna, let's bring you into the conversation. I'll come back to Dr. Baroud in a moment. Is it safer in the South? Is the South a safe place to be? As we're hearing the Israeli military saying people must move there because it is a safer place to be. And two, they are saying they're doing their best to avoid civilian casualties.
Yeah, of course. First off, thank you for letting me speak about this. I live in the West Bank. I don't live in Gaza. But based on what we hear from people living in Gaza, and based on facts, based on what we're seeing, nowhere in Gaza is safe. The Israeli occupation is telling people to move to the south through specific routes, and then they go moments later and start bombing these routes. People in the south are also getting bombed. People who are trying to do anything, go anywhere, are getting bombed. Houses are getting bombed. Over 50 schools right now have gotten demolished with children, teachers, people in them. Hospitals have been getting attacked, houses, mosques. Nowhere in Gaza is safe. Nowhere in Palestine is safe. Nowhere for a Palestinian living under the Israeli occupation. We are not safe anywhere. So no, these are all just lies, and people are getting attacked anywhere they go.
Yeah. And let's talk about, as you're mentioning, the attack on hospitals, right? There are three reasons that the IDF are using to say they were not involved in the attack on the Arab hospital. One, they're saying that there was no IDF activity at that time. Two, they're saying they detected missiles coming from a jihad, Islamic Jihad from that side, and they've got communication. Have any of these been proven to be credible evidence?
This is a lie. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'll come to you, Saleh, in a moment, yeah?
Yeah, this is, as Saleh said, is a lie. And always trying to deny all the crimes that they committed, but they posted, the Israeli news channels have posted videos that have been proven to go back to the years 2020 and 2021, and even right after the airstrike hit the hospital, I believe that Naftali, which is the Israeli digitally appointed spoken person, posted about it, that Israel has bombed a Hamas base that was based in a hospital, then deleted it right after. So no, actually this is a lie, and it was proven, and there's no actual proof that it was in any way not by a missile or a bomb shot by the Israeli occupation forces.
Yeah, Saleh, come in here. I mean, even though the head of hospital says after the bombing, he received a call where he was told, well, we warned you twice to move because we were about to hit that hospital. The IDF is saying today that there was no activity there. They detected missile activity from Islamic Jihad and communication, and that there's a video that's being circulated of the said bombing. and there is some communication that is being circulated where it's saying it's a failed missile. And the Pentagon saying they've got similar data, hence the president today saying he stands by this claim, the president of the United States standing by the claim by Israel. Saleh, what do you know?
Look, I've covered for Amnesty International and media organizations multiple military offensives against the Gaza Strip from 2008 until now. In each of these times when there are these big massacres or the killings of, for example, children, or the bombing of schools or hospitals, the Israeli tactic is to lie, continue to lie. Western media will take on this lie without question and echo it and repeat it. Israeli politicians or Western politicians will also, like we've heard from Biden, do the same until basically organizations, investigative journalists, human rights organizations, the United Nations would come out with the evidence, and then after the fact, even not really apologize or admit. And I want to give two examples here. One, the killing of renowned journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, who was killed last year in May by Israeli sniper fire. An Israeli sniper raiding the refugee camp of Jenin, where Shireen Abu Akleh, a reporter for Al Jazeera, was there to cover that military raid, was targeted by an Israeli sniper. Targeted. Yeah? She was shot in the head, although she was dressed in all the attire of the press with clearly marked press and the helmet. She was still shot in the head and killed. Israel lied, continued to lie. Western media picked up that lie and echoed that lie until then you had human rights organizations, the United Nations, and so on and so forth, who proved with evidence, with hard evidence, that it was the Israeli military who targeted Shireen Abu Akleh and killed her. And until now, although we have a mini half admission of this, there's absolutely no accountability. A similar thing that happened in Gaza, for example, by targeting of the UN schools in Gaza. And again, Israel would bomb the school. It would lie that it's a misfire from Hamas or another Palestinian armed group. And then after the UN proves the evidence and shows the hard evidence, time has passed and the story is out and the politicians have supported Israel and there's absolutely zero accountability. We are seeing exactly the same thing here. It is the Israeli tactic of lie until proven otherwise and then say, oh, maybe it's us.
Yeah. Abeer, we are hearing that we are on the brink of an invasion. It can happen any moment now. It might not have been desirable for it to happen today while the President of the United States was there, but it could happen even tonight. Where you are sitting in Israel, what is in Jerusalem, rather, what is your fear about what would happen should an invasion happen in Gaza? Abeer?
She may not be with us, I think.
Okay, I think we might have lost her there on the line. But let me put that same question to you, Dr. Baroud. What do you think would happen if that invasion were to happen tonight?
Of course, a disaster, a complete disaster. Just very quick, if you would allow me, regarding the bombing of hospitals. I mean, they have already bombed Ad-Durra hospital. They have already bombed the Indonesia hospital or Indonesia hospital. They have attacked the vicinity of the European hospital in Gaza, and currently, as we speak, right now, they are bombing the vicinity of the Al-Quds or Jerusalem hospital in an area called Tel Aviv in Gaza. And just hours before they bombed the Baptist hospital in Gaza, they bombed a UN school sheltering hundreds of Palestinians, killing 6 and wounding many. So it kind of makes no sense. Oh, and even more important, Danny Yatom, the former chief of the Mossad, said in Channel 13, a day before that event, he said, we should bomb a Shifa hospital. He said that. It's there. It's reported. Shifa hospital is even much bigger than Al-Ahli hospital. And he says, oh, because there is a city of tunnels by Hamas and so forth and so on. So he was calling openly for the bombing of the biggest hospital in Gaza. But Israel does this to create a distraction because they know that American Western media are so willing to accommodate the Israeli point of view. Then it becomes a case of he said, that sort of thing. And then we engage in that conversation. And as Saleh said, with time, maybe they will admit it, maybe not. But then it's no longer functional. It's not important for anybody. If Israel invades Gaza, then we are looking at two different scenarios. It all depends on what is the motive of that invasion. They can't possibly invade Gaza to destroy the resistance because the resistance is not going to be standing right in the middle of the street waiting for them. So there will be, with all these civilian casualties, the number is going to be much, much higher. Some analysts are estimating at the tens of thousands. And it's not going to achieve anything. Perhaps, and that's the second scenario, they are hoping to keep pushing Palestinians south all the way towards the Egyptian border with the hope that the Palestinians are going to reach the border and run into the Sinai desert in their large numbers. But now you have the Egyptian army that have created a military wall around that fence. We're already talking about a genocide, but we are talking about a genocide becoming much worse than anybody has possibly expected. So we need a very, very strong stances from all governments, especially in the global south. If we can't count on the global south, who are we going to count on? There has to be a very, very strong stance, a unified stance on this issue before the entire region go completely out of control.
Janna, as we wrap up, what is the situation at the Rafah Bridge? What are you hearing in your reportage?
Yes, the Rafah Bridge was bombed multiple times by the Israeli occupation forces. So in the beginning of, the bombing of Gaza, we heard Netanyahu call on the Palestinians living in Gaza who have been living under siege for the past 17 years, barely anyone able to get in or get out, calling them to flee and empty Gaza because they're planning to wipe it out. And the only way out technically is through the Rafah Bridge. But we've seen that in the first couple days, the Israeli occupation forces intended and have targeted the Rafah Bridge directly, bombing the bridge itself, bombing the people who were trying to pass it. So it's almost impossible at the moment to go through it, although even before it was almost impossible to. And yes, they continuously now bomb whoever is trying to flee, bomb people coming in and out of neighborhoods, of cities, of towns. And the situation is just escalating. It's getting worse. And as Saleh mentioned, all these crimes that are being committed, the war crimes that, also something to emphasize is that these war crimes have are being committed currently, but have not started in the past week or 2 weeks. They've been being committed for the past 17. My internet. But they've been committed and are being committed right now, but they have been committed for the past 75 years in Gaza, in Palestine. Oh my God. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm really sorry. It's just cutting off. But yes, these war crimes have been committed by Israel in Palestine for the past 75 years since the Nakba, and Gaza has been under siege for the past 17 years. So it's really important to emphasize that accountability. Israel has not ever been held accountable actually for these war crimes that are being committed constantly, for the bombing of Palestinians. And right now, I believe that it is extremely crucial for the world, since everyone is paying attention to this, to actually call for holding Israel accountable for the constant war crimes, for the massacres, for the genocides, for the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians that has been going on and currently is going on a much larger scale. It is now the time for the world to call on an end for this apartheid system that we're living under, because if not now, Palestinians are going to be erased. We're going to be ethnically cleansed. And we are seeing that last night, over 500 people, some news resources are saying 800, 1,000 people were killed in a matter of seconds. And if this does not come to an end now, I don't know what to say, because this is extremely bad. And hopefully we will take action.
Let's leave it there for tonight. I thank you all for coming through and being so vulnerable and honest about your stories. We thank you for coming on, Saleh, Hijazi, Janna, Tamimi, as well as Dr. Ramzy Baroud, Abeer, Zayaad as well, joining us there a little bit earlier on.